tough to get in the flow, to be honest with you. But I'm just glad we're 5-0. That's all that matters.
They're 5-0 again. The Nittany Lions have been here before, 1 year ago. Now ranked in the top 10, this year's fast start feels a little different, partly because of a defense that's improving rapidly and loves what they do.
I mean, if I could play defense all game, I play defense all game.
We land a Nittany Lions legend for our Impact interview. Trace McSorley is a Big Ten champion, now spending his workdays in the desert with the Arizona Cardinals. We ask him about his most memorable moments in Beaver Stadium. It's time for Nittany Game Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski, along with our coaches Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. We heard Coach Franklin say it, and I know you guys lived it. A bye week is not an off week. You see it coming on the schedule. You can catch your breath a little bit, but what does a bye week mean to you guys?
Evaluate what you've done, what's worked, and where you're good. Try and reinforce that. Where you've had some problems, try and reinforce that and get better, and that's really what it comes down to.
How about
Get
you?
healthy, number one. Okay. Number two, it's a great chance to work on your fundamentals. Number three, don't get them bored. Don't put your game plan in too soon. Get it just to the right thing. Make sure that your practices change greatly during an off week because you're going to get a little different tempo.
Definitely a little science to it, that's for sure. Okay, brutal conditions against Northwestern. Penn State hangs on for a 10-point victory that moves them up one spot to number 10 in the country. Let's get to our opening drive. I alluded to the poor conditions. No excuses from the team afterwards. It's a turnover battle royale. 5 from the Nittany Lions and a handful from the Wildcats.
I was close to recovering a fumble myself, and I was all the way up in the stands. No, we jinxed them last week. We talked about how they hadn't lost a fumble all year. And as I'm watching the game going, oh, we should have shut our mouths.
You said that in the car on the way home. He said, we talked about no turnovers. Watch this week, they'll get a bunch of turnovers.
So we're taking accountability for it. But look, this is one of those things that happens. Yes, the conditions were a little sloppy. Yes, Northwestern put a helmet on the football a couple times. But these guys, as they said, weren't capping the ball enough to hang on to it.
Yeah, but I think it's a good learning experience. Things have happened for the young freshmen back so easily so far. I think this is a good thing where they can sit back and go, I haven't arrived yet.
Yeah.
The great thing is, they still won the game.
Yeah.
It would have been worse if you hadn't won the game. So you got a good learning experience with the win.
They come out unscathed. Hard to explain what happened last Saturday. Just one of those days when you take the win and move on.
It's one of those where you just get a win. That's all that matters. It was gritty. The rain was so on and off today that it was tough to get in the flow, to be honest with you. But I'm just glad we're 5-0. That's all that matters.
Coming into this game, I think we were number 2 in the country in turnover ratio. Well, we saved them all up for tonight.
Yeah, the Nittany Lions softened the blow by creating some turnovers themselves, including this interception by Jair Brown.
Well, I tell you, they did a great job after the turnovers. The sudden change defense, we're going to talk about that a little bit, but, those 5 turnovers turned into 14 yards on those first downs, so they weren't able to get into a rhythm, Northwestern, and take advantage of them.
And when you can do that, good things usually happen from that.
Yeah, they rise to the occasion, guys, absolutely. As you look at some of the video, they were all in the Wildcats grill. There you see P.J. Mustafer right then and there. And, the sudden change part of this is, look, let's get back out on the field. Let's be aggressive. Let's put an end to this. And they still got good field position right back for the offense.
Yeah, in fact, they got a turnover back. They got in fact, they may have gotten 2 turnovers back. And they just shut Northwestern's offense down.
Because what happens on the sidelines a lot, we got to turn, this. And so instead of saying, hey, here's our chance to show how good we are defensively, let's go in, get this thing going the opposite way.
Funny you should say that, Tom. For safety Jair Brown, it's pretty simple. He'll take any chance he can get to take the field.
We don't try to look at it as sudden change. We look at it as another opportunity to get out there and play defense. I mean, if I could play defense all game, I play defense all game.
Oh, how can you not love that attitude if you're a defensive coach? And let's stay with our defensive wizard here. Penn State receiving corps, Tom. Some excellent options, but not really number one guy that stands out at this point. How does that work when you plan against a team?
Well, I think as you plan you have to be, one of the things you have to do is be able to be versatile enough during the game to change your plan. You get stuck on one thing and you say, well, wait a minute, this is different. We've got to make our move from here and not be afraid to do that.
Yeah, and Jay, they've had Mitchell Tinsley, Parker Washington, Brenton Strange kind of evolving as a number one type of option.
Yeah, I just think, from the outside in, it's nice to have that one guy in the wideout that you can go to one-on-one. I don't think that's been established yet, and as we get into Big Ten play, and you're going to see more man-to-man coverage, you're going to need to get to that at some point.
All right, let's get to the scrap metal. A game of turnovers, Tom. Perhaps no one creates greater momentum shifts against Northwestern than senior defensive end Nick Tarburton.
Yes, and you guys have criticized me. You say we always pick a defensive guy. Not true, okay? But in this case, he deserves it. He had the big sack, got a fumble, and he forced a fumble. 3 really big plays during that football game. Big plays when they needed them, and Tarburton saw red when he went for the strip sack.
It was awesome, man. Biggest thing was making that move on that tackle, but then just seeing that ball. I saw that ball, and that's all I wanted, man. I just, no matter what it was, I needed to get that ball, and it was cool. It was awesome.
Tarburton getting the job done on defense. He's going to be a factor for the Nittany Lions in some big games just ahead. Still to come, our scouting report. Our coaches are doing some bye-week prep work, what Penn State needs to look out for from the next 3 opponents on the schedule when Nittany Game Week returns.
Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
We are back on Nittany Game Week. Let's call it the calm before the October storm. The Nittany Lions see it coming. A final 7-week stretch of their Big Ten schedule that includes the Wolverines, Golden Gophers, and the Buckeyes. Coach Bradley, Coach Paterno, not sitting around during a bye week. You're using the extra time to take a look at your own team and then the upcoming opponents.
And that's exactly what we're going to do, Todd. We're going to start by looking at the next 3 opponents before the end of the month and talk about what's a little bit different from what they did last year compared to this year. So we'll take 1 play each. Let's start with the Michigan Wolverines because they're up first. Last year with McNamara, did not have as much of a run threat at the quarterback spot as they do with McCarthy this year. And, Tom, that puts a lot of pressure on those guys out here when the quarterback is a threat to run the ball.
Yeah, I hate when those guys can run the ball. And by the way, can you get me one of these for Christmas for my house?
Yeah, moderate. Let's take a look at the video how this opens up the inside run. And Michigan right now one of the top running teams in the country, and that adds some pressure to it. So let's talk about the Gophers. Let's take a look at what the Gophers are doing a little different. The biggest thing with the Gopher offense right now is Mo Ibrahim, the running back, 5'10", 210. He is a downhill guy. They're going to kick out here, move that, and he's going to go north and south, straight ahead. Tom, you love that. And when you're in the secondary, when you see on the video, what do you tell them?
Buckle up, because it's coming. And
Yeah.
Great pad level. He's got great pad level when he runs with the football.
Yeah, very decisive, north-south, and that safety was like,
Ouch.
I'll tackle this guy and maybe not. But let's talk now about Ohio State. One of the most drastic things has been their change of defensive coordinator. Last year, they gave up 41.1% on 3rd downs, which was 13th in the Big Ten, 14 teams. This year, 27%, 11th in the country. Playing more zone behind it, Tom. And just talk quickly about how much.
This is an interesting concept because it's 3 deep, 2 under. It's still 6-man pressure. It's kind of an exotic zone defense is what they're doing, and it's been very successful for them this year.
And you can see they get to the quarterback. They make you hold the ball a little bit and make things happen. The other thing you do during your off week is you talk about what Penn State, they're going to look at themselves and see what they've done. So let's take a look at a couple of things. A lot of people on Saturday, what's going on with the fumbles? The reality is sometimes you just got to give it to the other team, make it a great play. But here, it's a tough situation for Nick Singleton because it is a long play going to the outside. The guy coming across blocks the corner, and you'll see the safety has a free run at him, Tom. And that's what you want.
And that's what you want. In this particular case, I think we should have blocked the safety, who I think is a better run defender and let the corner. The running backs don't like to see the safeties. They don't mind the corners.
Exactly. Well, corners, if safeties could cover, they'd be corners. If corners could tackle, they'd be safeties. But that's tough to deal with. Okay, let's talk about some of the things. We talked about the turnover. One of the great things Penn State did was great sudden change defense. They got them into 2nd and long of the 5 plays right after the turnover, total of 14 yards, a lot of 2nd and longs, which allows you to play coverage with 2 safeties back here, and then they got to hold the ball a little bit longer and take a look at what happens up front. So you'll see Northwestern's quarterback gets back there, and here comes Tarburton around. Next thing you know, ball's on the ground. And
he has to know when to get rid of it. He's got to have that clock in his head. You've coached quarterback for years. You know what it's like. Hey, get rid of it.
Yeah. So let's talk about one more thing with Penn State. Now, they've had to rely on their secondary and their linebackers to get more pass rush. And when you do that, that puts you into a lot of man-to-man situations, Tom. And I know there's really not a lot of help coming from this guy on outbreaking routes. Take a look at the video on this one.
Well, here's a case right now where he lost his leverage. He took good outside leverage to start, then he lost it, and he could get no help from the safety then.
Yeah, now let's take a look statistically at what Penn State's looking at in the next couple weeks. You're going from the first 5 games. The combined record was 10-15. It's going to be 14-1 the next 3 games. You look at the differences in the average rank offensively of the offenses they're going to play. And then when you look at the next one, you look at how balanced, the unfair imbalance, to use a pun, of all these teams are averaging over 200 yards on the ground and through the air. So again, they're going to have to play both sides. Can't make them, can't just take one thing away. And then finally, defensively, a big jump from the defenses they've played to the ones they're going to play. So that's going to be a challenge the next couple of weeks. It gets a lot steeper. And during that off week, that's what you want to look at. Todd?
Thanks, fellas. Of course, we like to keep tabs on the conference along with the Nittany Lions. Absolutely stunning move made by Wisconsin earlier this week when they part ways with successful head coach Paul Chryst. His interim replacement is a former Badger, Jim Leonard. Fair to say he was caught off guard as well.
We're all here because of what Paul Chryst had done and the trust that he had in us. So very emotional on our floor as well as the players. So, I mean, really, initially – felt like there's very little I can say to this team to handle that emotion in the moment. It hurt a lot of guys, and had a lot of conversations with the team individually as units, and then starting to reach out to individual guys as well, just because everyone's going to handle it a little bit differently.
Chris took the Wisconsin job after 3 years at Pitt. He finishes 67-26 with the Badgers, 6-1 in bowl games. The team is 2-3 so far this season. Up next, a Nittany Lions legend joins us, guide at Penn State to their most recent Big Ten championship. Trace McSorley is our Impact interview. We reminisce about his days suiting up for the blue and white. Nittany Game Week is coming right back.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back. Time for our Impact interview. We have landed a Nittany Lions legend. Guided Penn State to the 2016 Big Ten Championship, 3-time second-team All-Conference QB, drafted by the Baltimore Ravens, and now with the Arizona Cardinals. He set the Big Ten title game passing record in a 28-7 comeback to beat Wisconsin. I could go on and on, but we actually want to talk with the guy. Trace McSorley, welcome to Nittany Game Week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, Todd. Appreciate you guys having me on here.
Absolutely. All right. Well, so, Trace, we call this the Impact Interview. So let's start with a question about your time and storied career at Penn State, which translates far beyond football. How much did becoming a Nittany Lion and part of the Penn State academic and athletic community impact your life on and off the field?
It's made huge impacts. I mean, just the people that I was able to be around and learn from within the academic community there at Penn State. Was able to get a great degree. Was able to work an internship that I was able to, kind of navigate through in the, financial management side. So it presented so many opportunities off the field that I wouldn't have been able to get, I don't think, if I had gone to other places. So it's something that I'm super fortunate to have been able to go through, and something that when my playing days are done, definitely going to be able to lean on and lean on that alumni base and be able to, hopefully parlay that into a good career after football is done.
I get the sense you're going to be successful whatever you do, Trace. But as a guy who's watched a lot of Penn State football over the last 45 or more years or so. I would tell anyone that your individual performance in the 2018 Ohio State game was one of the greatest and toughest performances I've ever seen in Beaver Stadium. Obviously, wish it was a little bit better outcome, but you're one of the great competitors ever to play here. Is there a moment or a game at Beaver Stadium, because it's kind of your home stadium, is there a moment or a game that really stands out for you during your time at Penn State?
From the games at Beaver Stadium, a couple come to my mind. Obviously, some of the whiteout games that we had. Obviously, we had the victory over Ohio State with the blocked field goal. The one over Michigan where we kind of came out the gates firing, and they just got the crowd in it immediately. Those were great ones, great memories that I have. But one of my favorite ones was just the last game, senior day in Beaver Stadium against Maryland. It was that Penn State weather, a little bit cold, kind of rainy, but we were able to pull out a great win. And then, me and some of the other guys after the game, kind of did a little lap around the stadium, just kind of reminiscing on everything. And that moment, just being with my teammates, guys that I came in with in the same high school recruiting class, and being able to cherish that the last time suiting up and playing in that stadium all together was really cool.
Trace, I'm Tom Bradley. I don't like you quarterbacks. I'm a defensive guy, but I'm going to have to ask my question, okay? So obviously you've been in the NFL for a few years, and it is a business at that level, as you know. For all those guys who can't wait to get to the NFL, how much do you miss the college environment with that on-campus excitement the week of the whiteout game?
Yeah, it definitely, it's a completely different feel being around, going from college to, professional, just like you said, learning the business of it and kind of what goes on here. You don't get those time in the locker room. Even just once you're done with practice, school, you go eat, and then you go home. You're living with guys on the team. It's now you just go home and you start studying for the next day, getting ready. But everyone's going back to their own families, kids. You got grown men. That real life responsibilities out here. So it is a different feel, and definitely something that you miss once you've left that locker room. And then even just you talk about a week like the whiteout, walking around campus, it's got a different feel to it. You're going to class, and there's a different energy on a Monday, and the game's not even until Saturday.
Trace, you're an East Coast guy. Not sure how much your schedule out west allows you to watch the Nittany Lions, and I was joking with you about knowing what time it is, because these big noon kickoffs are like 9 o'clock in the morning out there. But how much you enjoying to see Penn State at 5-0? And then here's the second part for your replacement, Sean Clifford. How important is it for him to get a victory against one of these big boys in the East Division, Michigan or Ohio State, or both, hopefully?
Yeah, both. Let's get greedy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's start talking about both. But to your first point, it's been a little bit of an adjustment. Usually we go through like our Saturday walkthroughs, and those usually start about 9 o'clock, and then we finish up and the game's are already on. So it is nice that I get to watch all the games. And before, when I was playing in Baltimore out back on the East Coast, I'd miss a good chunk of the first games and stuff like that, just because of what we had going on Saturday. So it's nice to be able to, games are on earlier. I go home and be able to watch those games in the 4 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock games are on at 4:30 out here. So by the time those finish up, it's perfect time to start chilling out and getting ready for, obviously we're going into Sundays, preparing for that game. So get a good night's rest and not being able to stay up until 10 to see how those games finish. But yeah, for Sean, I think it's just when he's firing, when he's confident, and when things are rolling, he's one of the best guys to be leading that team. And I think for him to kind of be able to step up and win this week, obviously they got Michigan, and then a couple weeks they got Ohio State. But the more they can kind of keep winning, will be huge. And anytime they got a really young team, so anytime you can beat one of those big dogs and step up and have one of those wins, it kind of just propels your team a little bit, gives you guys confidence, gives you momentum. That happened to us when 2016 we got the big win over Ohio State and kind of propelled us on to a Big Ten championship season. So you get a big win like that against a top program in the nation. It does a lot for not just a single player, but for your team as a whole.
Hold with us for just a couple of minutes. We're going to step aside for a TV break. We will continue our interview with the Nittany Lions legend. So if you want to see the entire conversation with Trace McSorley, make sure to go to NittanyGameWeek.com for the entire interview, along with other web exclusive content. Still to come, how the pride pick on the left can lead to the video on the right side of your screen. We're giving away a free cabin on the Happy Valley Cruise. We'll have more details when we come back. We're heading into the final minutes on Nittany Game Week. Okay, I can't guarantee it's going to be in this kind of warm weather location, but my guess is Jay will be on a kayak somewhere. Look at him navigate Tobacco Bay and Bermuda. Got to do something relaxing with Penn State not taking the field anywhere this weekend. Now, I'm still going to digest my share of college football, but probably pick up the golf clubs only after I check off some to-do list items that almost certainly will include a lawnmower. Tom, how about you?
No kayak for me, definitely. Hit some golf balls, and I got to watch the Steelers play.
All right.
Well, you brought up the cruise. Go to happyvalleycruise.com, get signed up, get your cabin and ready to go for next summer when we go out to Bermuda again for a 5-day cruise.
We'll get to see you do that. But you got a homework assignment for everybody.
Yes, it's not an off week. So Penn State fans, here's your viewing. DVR it if you got chores to do or things to do that you can't be in front of TV, carving the pumpkin. But 5 of Penn State's opponents are on Saturday, the next 7 opponents. So get your DVR set and get your homework done.
All right, there you see it, Ohio State, Michigan State. We thought that would be a little bit better game, but who knows what's going to happen with that. You mentioned that free cabin. Of course, we did show Bermuda and Tobacco Bay. Everyone at home has a chance to join us for the 2023 Happy Valley Cruise that sails to Bermuda in June. And then we've got our depth chart. While we're entering the contest, make sure you check it out at NittanyGameWeek.com. There you'll find our roster of businesses that support us here on the show. Our goal is to build a team in the community that works with Nittany Game Week and that you in turn support as a viewer to keep the hometown strong. You may have noticed we have a lot to share with you when it comes to the Nittany Lions and college football in general, and it doesn't all fit into a weekly 30-minute window across the region. Make sure you check out NittanyGameWeek.com for web-exclusive content. Yeah, less than ideal weather for Northwestern games, so we can finish with some soggy pride picks, guys. For Jay and Tom, I'm Todd. Thanks so much for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.